All right, guys, this is a bit of an unusual one. I'm recording this before I run. I'm wearing my running t shirt. I'm drinking my weird electrolyte drink. And I procrastinated recording this one for a while, actually, because I was afraid that once I recorded it, I would then have to actually go run. And up to this point, I've just kind of been pretending that I was going to run. I'm running 21 miles today. And yeah, that means if you don't see me for the second ism today, that I didn't quite make it. But, we will survive because we're starting a new football manager save on stream tomorrow. By we, I guess I mean me and my multiple personalities. So that's exciting. I got something to look forward to, something to motivate me as I go through this incredibly diabolical human experience of attempting to run 21 miles after having eaten Five Guys 2 days ago, which, again, part of my incredible diet for this particular event. But I wanted to talk about something, to abuse that phrase, something that has been brought to my attention that I think I have been making a mistake on. I've been an idiot about. I think this happens with everybody when it comes to certain players, and one of those players for me is always been Mo Salah. Right? Mo Salah is one of those players that I feel like I've had a misconception about for a long time that I'm starting to deal with. And I feel like maybe I'm not the only person and that there is a collective amount of society that needs to reckon with the same issue, right? Because when you interact with a player, you tend to file them into certain categories. And I think every once in a while there needs to be some sort of event that causes you to refile that certain player. Now, Mo Salah is somebody that obviously broke on to the stage a little late. He was somebody that went to, if you don't know his backstory, he went to Chelsea. He was not very good. They let him go. He ended up at Roma, where he turned things around. And then he was brought in by Liverpool. And he has been truly, truly spectacular since arriving. And you might feel like maybe you're in my shoes where you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, he's only been at Liverpool for a couple of years and he's been producing, but he's also had injuries and everything else. No, I mean, Mo Salah joined Liverpool, this blow your mind, in 2017. Okay. I didn't realize it had been that long. That's the first thing. The second thing is when you break down the consistency of his production over the course of that time period, I thought he'd had more injuries or more slow periods than he had. But Mo Salah has legitimately been a top 5 player in the Premier League every single year for those 7 years that he has been at Liverpool. 32 goals in 36 matches, 22 goals in 38 matches, 19 goals in 34, 22 goals in 37, 23 goals in 35, 19 goals in 38, 18 goals in 32. At no point has he averaged less than a goal for every 290 minutes that he's played. He's always averaged significantly more than that, factoring in his substitute appearances. Like, he's been a truly spectacular player for a long time. I saw a tweet the other day that was comparing him to Eden Hazard, but I feel like we have to file those guys, even those guys, into different categories because there are different types of players that are able to accomplish things. Eden Hazard at his very best, right, which, was very, very good, was better than Mo Salah. But how often did you really get Eden Hazard's very best? Even Eden Hazard would tell you that the answer is not that often, right? The level of consistency, the level of being able to deliver day in and day out, it was only there for a couple of seasons, if at all. Just ask Real Madrid how that turned out once they went and got him, right? He obviously became a cult hero, but he's basically the Lionel Messi of Hatem Ben Arfa's. You know what I mean? He's somebody that is capable of utter brilliance, but he is not capable of giving you that utter brilliance match in and match out. And at certain points, you'd be watching a couple of matches in a row where Eden Hazard feels like he doesn't even exist. On the other side of that is somebody like Mo Salah, who feels like a one-year breakout star. That first year where he scored 32 goals for Liverpool felt like a fever dream. And at that point, I filed him away in my mind as that type of player that exploded onto the scene, built a loyal following at Liverpool, and still is able to find that level on occasion. But the truth is that Mo Salah, outside of the normal waxes and wanes of form, has never really lost that level. right? Every time you're watching Liverpool, he's one of the focal points. He is available. He is attacking. He is somebody that, almost in an Erling Haaland style way most of the time, delivers that production. He gets there. He puts pressure on the other team, and he scores goals. And unlike Erling Haaland, he scores goals in a team that is a little less designed to feed him goals all the time. And as uncomfortable as it makes me feel, it's time for me to move him into that category as one of the greatest players that's ever played in the Premier League. One of those players that when you're talking about, wow, this guy could be blank in the Premier League, Mo Salah is a very acceptable and looked up to answer to that sort of question. I mean, in everybody's wildest dreams, you sign a winger who is able to come in and play like this over the course of 7 and hopefully longer, hopefully more seasons. And I say hopefully because who wants somebody like this, unless you're playing against Liverpool, to stop playing? If you're a fan of the game, you want somebody like this to stay at Liverpool as long as possible, just so that you can see the types of goals, the types of numbers that they can put up. The best players in the world, you want to keep watching. You want to enjoy what they have to offer. And if you're wondering what set this off, I've got a stat for you. Mo Salah, over the weekend on Sunday, he scored and assisted in a 2-1 win for Liverpool, just in case you happen to miss it. Now, the goal was a penalty, but as Lionel Messi proved in the World Cup and as Ronaldo's proved over most of his career, penalties do still count. And he scored a penalty, assisted a goal. Obviously, those 2 goals were important considering they won the game 2-1. And that means he has scored and assisted in 34 Premier League matches. 34 with a goal and an assist in them. The only player that has more than that is Wayne Rooney, who had 36. And he also had a lot more seasons in the Premier League than Mo Salah, and a lot more games in the Premier League than Mo Salah. Mo Salah, when you head over to his transfer market, which I've done you the favor of doing, has played in the Premier League like less than 300 games. He has 271 games in the Premier League with 162 goals and 74 assists. I had to bust out the calculator. That means he has 236 goal contributions in 271 Premier League games after playing multiple years at Chelsea and being objectively bad. Like, I know Jamie Vardy gets all the hype for being one of those, for being like the quintessential late bloomer. He was drinking Monster Energies in post-match interviews in the 5th division of England or whatever, in his early 20s. But what Mo Salah has done, while not quite as impressive as Jamie Vardy, is like a close second. I mean, this dude showed up and completely flamed out, right? He was shunned off of Chelsea. Him and Kevin De Bruyne seem to have lived the exact same arc. I'm not going to say that Mo Salah is the only person to have ever accomplished this, but to go into that cauldron of Premier League media and just be objectively bad, bounce out of it for just 1 year, and then bounce back and be consistently one of the best Premier League wingers that anyone has ever seen. And now you're starting to get the flowers tossed around here. They've got the list of all-time leading goal scorers. Mo Salah has as many goals as Jermaine Defoe. He is very likely going to catch and pass Robbie Fowler this season, and he is 13 goals away from catching one of the most beloved Barclaysmen of all time, Thierry Henry. That is the era that Mo Salah is in. Now, I'm reckoning with that, right? The further I went down this rabbit hole, the more consistent and excellent Mo Salah has been. He has his magic moments. And you know what? He has his trophies. He's won the Champions League. He's won the Premier League. He has led a Liverpool team that has consistently at least competed with the best Premier League team that people have seen since prime Sir Alex Ferguson in this Manchester City side that's overspending FFP and rocking with Pep Guardiola, and now has loaded up Erling Haaland. Like, the number of points that Liverpool has been able to put together per season since Mo Salah got there is incredible. And it's not just, fool's gold like what Arsenal's put together so far. It has resulted in very real trophies at the highest level of the game, something that, other Liverpool greats, like Gerrard never won the Premier League. He didn't win it. Right? But Mo Salah has. I don't know, maybe you've already been living in this reality. Maybe you've already been at this point for years. But there is a certain point in the progression of a player where they go from, wow, they're having a couple of great years, but I don't consider them as an all-time great, to, wow, I have to consider, like, there's no other option than to consider this player as one of the all-time greats. Whether you're talking about in the Premier League or just when we look back on this generation and go, God, he was one of, if not the, best winger in that generation. Like we're removing Messi and Ronaldo from this conversation, but you're putting Mo Salah firmly on that next level. Like the best of the humans, not the aliens, but in that category of the best of the humans, Mo Salah now has to be involved in that conversation. And if he can keep adding a few more years scoring those types of goals, right, scoring at least 19 goals and getting like 25, 30 goal contributions over the next couple of seasons, if he wins another Premier League, which is very on the table for Liverpool, or another Champions League, he's only going to rise in that conversation. But what's crazy to me in the fact that in watching all of the matches that I watch and making all of the videos that I make, I had never really thought about him at that level. And so I wanted to make this video just in case you hadn't realized either, because it's kind of like a frog in boiling water. Mo Salah is like there. He's done the stuff, and he's going to keep doing the stuff. And so you got to appreciate him while he's still lasting. Or if you're a rival of Liverpool, you got to hope that that eventually he ends up leaving, which I know has been rumored over the last season or two. But for the sake of football, I hope it doesn't happen. Because also, as a football manager player, it's awesome that one of these guys is Egyptian, right? That they're not all Brazilian or English or French, that we're getting somebody with a little, it gives me hope that maybe a U.S. player can come in and be something like that at some point. They can come from everywhere.